Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody had a good new year, first meeting of the new year. So before we hop into the agenda, I'm just going to read through, we'll do a roll call and then read through some of the meeting introduction. So, hi, everybody. Julia Gould, Secretary of the Needham Council for Arts and Culture. I'm just going to do a quick roll call to confirm which members are present. So when you hear your name, just let me know whether or not you're here. Sharon. Can't hear you, Sharon.
Oh.
Even did other people hear her?
I heard her lips move. I saw her lips move.
Yeah.
You look unmuted, Sharon, from this angle.
Could be a weird computer thing, but we see you. Elizabeth Cook.
You know?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Sharon.
Elizabeth told me she was going to be absent, most likely, maybe joining late.
Okay. Julia Gould here. Samantha. Not present. Gail Lustig let us know ahead of time that she was not going to be present. Betsy.
I'm here.
Thank you. Bala also let us know that she's unable to attend today. Charlie.
I'm here.
Thank you. Corinne.
Here.
Thank you. Heather.
Here.
Thank you. Joni.
Here.
Very much. And Dennis.
Yeah, I don't see our newest member. He's not here on the panel or anything by accident, is he?
I don't think so. And I don't think we got an email from him.
Okay.
All right. Well, you have 7, so that's a quorum. Great. So I'm going to read this little intro about the remote meeting. This open meeting of the Needham Council for Arts and Culture is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Needham Council for Arts and Culture is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how public may join. The meeting will be posted on the town's YouTube channel for posterity. So a few meeting ground rules to go over. Please remember to mute yourself or your computer when you're not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting notes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor and you state your name before speaking. Please note that some attendees are participating by video conference or by call. So be aware that other folks may be able to see or, may be able to see you, and take care to not share your screen on your computer. Be careful to share your screen on your computer. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay. So first item up on the agenda is approval of the past minutes. So did anybody have any questions or concerns about those? No? Someone like to motion to approve them?
So moved. Anyone want a second? You have to unmute, Joni.
I second.
Thank you. All right. And with that, the next item on the agenda was a treasury update, but with
Yeah,
some,
I don't think she had a lot to say, so we can roll it into the next one, and I'll just go ahead with the MCC
Yeah.
grant update. And I think this is going to be a fast meeting. The main thing we have to talk about is the murals, so that's exciting. So I sent out the disapproval letters back in December. I waited 2 weeks and then I sent out the approval letters. We didn't have anybody want a reconsideration of their disapproval, so that was awesome. So the letters have already gone out to everyone, and we're already getting their paperwork back in, which is like, I feel like it's kind of a world record because our funding won't even arrive till after February 1st. So I let everybody know that you know, get your paperwork in, but you're going to be waiting a few weeks. But I figured everybody would be happier to know that they've gotten funded and wouldn't mind waiting a little bit to get it. So so far we have 7 have already submitted their paperwork. So that's out of 20. Yeah, Sharon, that's like a third of the people. It's pretty great. People were excited. There was a lot of positive. Valerie Meow left a message she was so happy. I also did contact a couple of the disapprovals, like the Needham Open Studios, people that we'd funded for a while, and talked to them, and the Needham Revitalization Trust Fund, and had conversations with some of them that we'd been in touch with and funded in the past. So they were all very understanding. And I talked about, you know, applying in the future and how you can make your grant better, and what other partnerships we could talk about throughout the year if necessary. So that was that. Then the other thing about that we need to discuss is there's two other grants. So I'll start with the Needham Open Studios because they were amazing. They did not spend their money last year because the event hadn't happened. They did do Inside Out, but they sent a long email asking if they could apply the funding from they received in 2021 to Needham Open Studios in 2022, which is a strange kismet because we didn't actually get to fund them. But so now they will, if we approve this, they will get to use that funding that for their Needham Open Studios 2022, which will be May 14th and 15th. I in my head had figured Inside Out was probably this sort of the same thing, but they want to apply it to this, which I think would be great to have our name attached to it. I think for this sort of modification of the grant, we need to vote on that. So that was one, and I'll tell you the second one. So first, if anybody has any questions about that, concerns, raise your hand and we can address that, or we could just move on to the second modification that we need to do. All right, I don't see any hands. The second one is Fran Barron. She's from Delvena Theater Company. She was the first priority from the center at the Heights. Her show was Lizzie Borden and the 40 Wax. They're very excited to have that. They had to cancel their show from last year, which was The Incredible Mae West. And they actually had to cancel the show from the year before, which was Meet Julia Child. So they have 3 shows that they were meant to have done and only have one scheduled at the moment. So she called me today and is going to be sending an email to request that they do 2 shows instead of 3, and that the funding that they received, minimal $300 for, I think, for each show, between $250 and $300. If they could use that towards the 2 shows, and that the Center at the Heights would not have to pay as much because they also pay for some funding. Does that make sense? Sorry. So they would be doing The Incredible Mae West and Lizzie Borden, 40 Wax. So it made sense to me. Totally losing my voice, Julia. See if that vote works.
so what I'm understanding is that they, similar to Open Studios, they just want to use the funds from the last 2 years in this year to host those 2 shows that they couldn't.
Yeah, so they would, instead of doing 3 shows, catching up with all 3 shows, which they could also do. They were proposing to do just the 2 shows, and they would reduce the cost that the Center of the Heights would have. They would take that third amount of funding. I think it's probably like $1,000.
Yeah, and like discount the.
And discount what the Center of the Heights puts in.
Okay.
Or they could still try to do the 3 shows, but I suspect that's very difficult for the Center of the Heights to schedule that many shows.
Mhm.
I also thought, had offered when we had spoken to her, she's been updating us about extensions and whatnot for the last year or 2 years, and saying that she would also, I'm sorry, they would still do the 3 shows if we wanted them to, but that they just never could find the time to do it. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying. So that would be the choice. And I think Center of the Heights really wants just to have 2 shows. They had intended to do all 3, but I think it's just become a little bit of a time crunch for Center of the Heights. They don't have enough programming in their calendar to do time in their calendar to get all 3 done. So they chose the 2 shows. Sorry, what I was going to say is in 2021, if she had asked to have the show written off as a COVID relief grant, which was an option, she could have done that, but she always wanted to keep doing the shows. But I think at this point, there's such a backlog of shows. So the recommendation would be to have them do 2 shows with a reduced rate to the Center of the Heights. So those are the two modifications. So I would recommend approving them as they are designed in that way. So that would be Needham Open Studios 2021 funding being for May, and the 2022 and 2021 funding for the Delvenia Theater Company combined for the show, the 2 shows. I don't know, do we have to vote on that? Does anybody know? Sharon, do you remember if you have to vote on modifications or just approve them?
Oh, we've already awarded 2 of these, right?
Yeah, and then we just have, they submit their modification or extension requests, and then we approve it. I don't know if the approval needs like an actual roll call, or if there's a vote.
We can do a roll call to approve the modification just to be sure, I think.
Yeah, just to make sure.
All right, would you do
Sure.
that, Julia?
Yeah, of course.
Does anybody have any questions first? That made sense, sorry. I was sick. Okay, cool.
All right, so we're gonna do a roll call to approve those modifications for Needham Open Studios and the Delvenia Theater Company. Sharon.
Approve.
Thank you. Julia, approve. Betsy,
Approve.
Charlie,
Approve.
Corinne,
So I abstain from Needham Open Studios, but approve the center.
thank you. Heather,
I approve both.
thank you. Joni,
I approve both.
all right.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for bearing with me through that explanation. So the public art planning, oh no, other grant review. So there's one more grant. So I think you remember last meeting, we discussed quickly and put it off. There was a grant that came through 2 minutes late, so it didn't make it into the Mass Cultural Council. The grant was from the Indian community of Needham. And so we just said that we would talk about it. It would normally probably have been something that we funded, but it didn't come in on time, so we didn't get to look at it. As you guys know, we granted $8,600, and part of Sam's treasury update would probably be saying that that's $600 over what we had allocated. We actually still have $300 floating around in our account from 2021 from someone who hasn't taken it. His name's Gregory Cook. It was the Wonderland Spectacle Theater, and they were going to do a video of Needham's Martini Junction, which is the train in the Needham Town Forest. So I've written to them, they haven't been able to do it, and they just keep putting this off. They don't want to take the funding until they actually do it. So who knows if that'll ever happen, but I don't think we will postpone that for, I mean, they get a year And so I asked him to make a choice whether he's going to do it, whether he needs a modification, or whether he can just take the funding for, organizational overhead, what that choice is. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes the treasury is a little bit flexible. So we still have about $4,000 in our account, even though it seemed like we had $4,000 last time. But there's about 4,000, and the accounting often it's hard to get the exact amount based on the date. So there was probably about 4,300 last time. I know, Sharon, your face right now is hilarious.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
totally.
understand if this is how much of those funds are committed?
$0 except for over 600.
This
So
is our other
we've
account.
committed 600, and then the 300 is committed. I just have a very big sense that that's not going to be spent. So
Okay, but we can't do
we
anything with it.
still have
because
about
it's
30.
committed, So
Yeah,
does it-
it's $3,100. Yeah. It is committed, but we can make the choice to uncommit it because it has officially been a year. And so it hasn't spent it. We haven't given it. We can take it back if we want to. Or we can,
well, we should
wait
help
for his
first.
response. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did email him over a week ago. So it has been a me chasing this person down for the last year. So I will say that much. So that's the funding. Our question would be for this grant, which is the Indian community of Needham. They requested $800. They will be doing a show at I think it's Pollard Middle School. It's geared towards middle school, high school students. It's an educational show of music, Indian music. So it's a little bit heritage, it's a little bit performance. They have a partner. They have a little bit of funding already. It's a very low cost show, and
I would love to see the proposal. Is there a reason that you can't send around the proposal before we
yeah, I can.
vote on it? So maybe we vote next meeting, because it's not MCC funds. So I happy to consider it from our other funds. It would just be great to see the proposal.
Yeah, I can. It's actually it's in the Mass Cultural Council. What do you call that? Login. It's just there as a draft because it was submitted at 12:02. So it's actually in there. Everybody has access to it if you want to check it out in there. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
if you think we should consider it, maybe you can download it and put it in our shared drive. Otherwise, it's not.
sure, I can forward it. Yeah, I'll forward
That
it.
would be great.
Yeah. So if it's okay, so you're saying that you don't want to look at it now. Does anybody else have any opinion? Would you all prefer to read it before you fund it? Or do you have strong opinions on it?
How long would it take to just do a quick read now to get a sense of?
Well, I just sent it to you all, so it's pretty easy. I mean, as you guys know, I can read the project overview. I can read all the parts to it. It's pretty simple. And the thing is that he has, we've put it off so many times that we just keep saying, yeah, we'll review it at the next meeting. I should have sent it around, sorry. But my sense now is that they also have, this show is going to happen whether or not we're part of it. I think that they have possibly acquired more funding. So it's whether, I guess the question is whether we want to be attached to basically a show that has, that's by the Indian community of Needham. And I say that because we actually, with Bala's help, reached out to them to say, you guys should apply for a grant. And so the grant they came back with is doing a music performance at Pollard for the community, really. They're not very clear about what the music is. It's just MIT's Heritage Arts of South Asia, which it wasn't clear what that partner group is, but someone on their board is attached to the group. And so they'll partner with them to do a show. So basically it's a minimal, they're paying $300 to rent, I think, Pollard, $300 on marketing, and it's $150 for the performer, whatever that means.
Can you, there was
I-
nothing attached. Can you forward that?
Yeah, I was
Actually,
just
the
gonna
say-
proposal?
Yeah,
Sorry. I'll try that again. Yeah, if you want, I can just read the project overview if that makes.
okay.
Yeah, did you get it there?
Do you want to share your screen and
Oh, yeah.
go through? Because we're.
Oh,
on-
that would have been the easiest thing. Yeah, thanks. Let's get that baby up there.
I got it. I got the attachment.
You do. Amy, could I share my screen?
You should be able to now.
Thank you. See. So here we go. The proposed project is to engage with MIT Heritage Arts of South Asia and possibly other area musicians and educators to design and deliver a presentation and demonstration performance of some Indian classical music styles. Our intention is to continue our engagement with the Needham Public Schools and tailor this to complement their social studies and music curriculum. We will aim to use the school auditorium, but it will not be an official school activity, and community members will be invited to attend also. So it's not necessarily at Pollard, it's at one of the spaces. It also doesn't necessarily say which students they'd be engaging or how they would be doing that. So the firm commitment exists by ICON as the organizer, and they have an ongoing working relationship with the Needham Public Schools Administration, but has not yet approached them about this endeavor pending adequate funding. There's also ICON board members' connection to MIT, and that outreach will commence once at least partial funding is secured. So it'll be publicized through MPS and student and parent channels, public PSAs in the newspaper, and through partner organizations. So that's the venue.
How hard is it to get a school auditorium venue, to get that, like a date on that for, I mean, I don't know. Is it difficult though? Like I know when we've talked about getting use of the town hall, I mean, that can be difficult. So I'm just wondering about the school
They do
auditorium.
rent
Is-
it, I think, but spring 2022 seems pretty soon, but if they don't have a date, but
Yeah, I wish they had a date,
I wish they had a date and a venue.
and I wish they had discussed it with people already.
Yes, it sounds like this is I mean, I think this is a great idea and it's a wonderful project, but it feels less developed than most projects that we fund, without a date, without a venue, without even a hard contact who said, yes, we will sponsor this. I would encourage them to fill in those blanks and resubmit to us as soon as they have that information. When we have discretionary funding. So if they come back to us and say, we're going to do Pollard on, April 7th, I would be very likely to vote for funding, but I would just like to see a little more definition personally.
so a venue and a
agree.
date. Okay. a venue and a date, that's totally, and we can do that because they're not an
Yeah.
MCC grant. We can just go back to them and say, hey, we like the sound of it, but we'd like to have a date and a venue.
And we'd like to
secured.
support their organization. It's a new arts
Right.
organization in town and it's doing some great stuff. I saw them singing on the Needham Martin Luther King Day thing and the video, and it looked great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that video, the steps, they were singing on the steps. That was the icon. It wasn't the same group, but it was this organization who sponsored them. I hadn't heard of them before that. Anyway,
Yeah, Bala is the vice president of the Indian
awesome.
community of Needham and performed at the event that they had on like a Heritage Day on town hall steps. Okay, so am I hearing general nodding? Does anybody else have any questions? That sounds like a plan. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't believe I shared my screen. That was exciting. Good suggestion. All right, let's move on. So then the next thing we want to talk about is the murals. How we want to do that. We were going to meet with the public art group, but we decided, since we didn't have a lot to talk about tonight, and time was getting past us, that we would talk about the mural here. And Gail has not here, but she gave me some notes too. And I remember over the past few meetings, she's been like, we should all be involved. This is a good thing. So we're all here. We've talked in the public art committee a few times about murals. We've done some legwork already. And I think so far, Heather and Joni are the leads of this committee. I think that what we've kind of agreed on so far is that our goal is to really color the town and add some color, add a public art piece that brings professional art to Needham was one of our main goals in talking, that we pay an artist a living wage. That was also an important goal to us. And obviously this was the diversity, equity, inclusion, access initiative that we talked to Nuwari about, and then based on the Nuwari statement that the town submitted. So when we responded, when was that, like 6 months ago? I don't even know how long ago that was.
Long time.
It seemed like a long time. This was a mural was something that we put as a priority. It's also in our objectives. So those are the kinds of the diversity was the other thing we had agreed upon. And then, so in the last couple months, we got some funding with the town, and Amy did an amazing job. I think it's $20,000, but I remember it's being for 2 murals when I watched it. The select board is what the approval was. Were there any other parameters you saw, Amy, about like if that has to be evenly split between 2 murals, or any other guidelines that we need to follow?
There are not any other parameters. I think what the select board would be looking for is a proposal back from the NCAC on sort of how the $20,000 would be expended.
Okay.
Saying, you know, whether you decided to put, you know, 12,000 to one and 8,000 to another. I'm making this up completely, but just sort of, you know, outlining a proposal on the use of the funds. Also, the design itself will need to get you know, approval from the select board, since it is utilizing public funds for it. Obviously, it sounds like at this point you're pursuing a privately owned space, but it being, you know, in a very public area, and that the town funds are being used, you know, going forth with recommendations as far as, you know, what the design would look like and all that is going to be necessary.
Okay, that's useful. Thank you. So those were the kind of goals and things that we know. So there's a bunch of things that we have to talk about and decide on together, but also we can bring some of it back to the public art committee, because obviously we're not gonna get all the answers tonight, but if there are some things we can answer as a group, I think that would be awesome. One of the questions is the type of call we want to do, and there's a lot of options. We could do a general wide call. We could do an invitational, which is what I think the committee has been leaning towards, which we've been going through different sites looking for artists and getting excited about some that we love. We've got an ongoing list of artists that we think would be great for a mural of this type. And the other options would be, publishing to the community, something like send us your artist ideas. My feeling would be that a general huge art call open to everyone would be way more of a management issue than we want to deal with. And I know if we want to reach our goal of bringing a really professional artwork in, I think a smaller invitational call would probably be our best bet, but we can talk about that further and what other nuances we can do to add to that. Yeah, Heather.
But what if it were more a general call, but then you had, well, maybe that's not great either. I was just thinking if we had a broader call to artists, but was they came from a certain region.
Yeah, I think
So
eligibility would be the next question. So we want to talk about like if we feel like it has to be a Needham regional or like a mass US call. And one of the other eligibility questions is, do we want this to be a BIPOC artist? That was one of the things we've talked about, we've gone back and forth about, or whether it's an artist that's just addressing a BIPOC theme, diversity idea theme. And the theme is also whether we want to set one ourselves or keep it broad. So there's kind of some of the big questions. Location right now, we have 1299 Highland Ave because the TJ site really just hasn't come through, even though that would be much more exciting. I'll give you a quick update while I'm here talking about locations, because I did have a call with Sarah Shine of the Needham Youth and Family Services, and they're leading the DeFazio Tunnel mural. And that is moving forwards. It's moving forwards a lot like the rail trail mural. So they're using a group of students from the high school. It will be a very community student-led mural. And at the moment, they're using the same concept as the rail trail mural. Unless that changes along the line. There's some meetings this week with the students. But their initial design idea is the same kind of topics that they addressed with the rail trail, which I think was, if you look at it, they're, just community equality kind of nothing. I think community-based concepts, nothing huge in terms of like a philosophical subject matter. And so they're accomplishing that. Did I hear a question?
What's delaying the Trader Joe's location? You're just not getting a response from the landlord?
No, I had originally reached out to him. Gosh, I have to go back and look at my notes, but I mean, it was many, many months ago. It was like last spring. And they seemed very open to it and very positive. And I was told that because they had multiple national tenants, they were going to have to check with their corporate headquarters, CVS and Trader Joe's and Carewell, and that it could take some time to do so. So I let some time go by and I followed up and eventually reached my contact there, who said, he was still trying to get some answers. And then my recent attempts to reach out to that person, the last 3 times, I've not gotten a response. So I may try to find another contact at that management company. Actually, he's the person who was in charge of the property. So that was sort of the most direct hands-on person. But unfortunately, I'm not getting any kind of response from him. So I'm going to go around and see if I can find somebody else there. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that may be imminent. So I'm not sure how important timing is, but I'm not sure
Yeah,
how
we
quickly we're
went
getting
through
an
the
answer.
locations, a lot of locations in the public art committee. That was one thing we did. But I mean, there is a possibility of going back over some of the locations and seeing if there's something else. I know, Amy, you talked about there's that walkway between where we had one of the storefronts, Needham, and the orthodontist just moved in there. It's like basically next to Harvey's Hardware,
Yeah.
where there's sort of a walkway there, which is kind of a cool location. I also just made friends with the guy that works at Keolis, and he said he'd be happy to help us with any MBTA commuter rail properties in Needham. So that was a good contact. If we want to look, those I just thought would be too difficult to ever address, like those tunnels, but maybe there's a chance we could look at that again. So if nobody has any, I mean, I also still love the spot that we have because it's on Highland Ave, but you know, it is a very commercial area, so it's visible, but it's, you know, it's in that shopping center area, but I feel like it's a good spot for us. I also talked to Paul Good, who's still working from Needham to the World has been fully funded now. And so that should be going up really soon. That's the walkway between, oh, actually, I'm sorry, it's on Needham Fine Wines, across from Town Hall. So that actually should be going up pretty soon. And they're doing something which is vinyl. Their Ridge Hill Reservation mural is on the side of Walgreens. That's not imminent, but that is going to be a vinyl piece, which is also another piece of the puzzle that I saw in Jamaica Plain, or this new Now and There has these murals that are vinyl that you can put on the side of walls. So that material, it opens up a lot of possibilities for traveling locations. So that is, and it also opens up a huge amount of possibilities for artists who do not work as muralists, who work as, you know, painters, and then it can become, you know, it's just easier to print on vinyl for people than it is to paint on a wall. So, and it has a long life as well. So that's a possibility. So I guess these are all questions that we can chat about now. The one thing I feel like we can easily say is that we need a selection committee made up of our public artists. Our public art committee, but then also I thought, like we have in the past, some student artists on the selection committee, and maybe this year we could add community members from like the arts community. So to do a wider selection committee, I feel like would be a great way to bring in the community, easy win and not super hard to manage. So I figured that was one thing we could all probably agree on right now.
I think that's a great idea to bring people in from the community.
Yeah, one of Gail's questions that she wrote to me was that she was wondering if this was going to be a community art project. And I told her that we want to discuss how we can bring the community into this, but that this is going to be run by a professional artist. Traditionally, the artists would we'd give them a theme and they'd come up with it and paint it, or we could give them a theme and they could communicate with the community in a way, and then as one level of their design process. So we could include the community if we can ask the artist to include the community either through, some online thing, recommendations, or a committee meeting, a community meeting, run some things. I just know that if you make it hugely broad, the community has a lot to say, and that can stall the process. Yeah. Or add a lot of steps in it. So if we're hoping to get this done in the next year, that would add a significant amount of time. So I think maybe, do people want to, yeah, Heather, go ahead.
I think that, like you were saying, if we kind of more originally you were saying to reach out to different artists, I think that would really help, because then you're looking at what they already do and you're selecting their style or their interests of what they already portray. And that will help
Yeah, and
kind of, that will help kind of edit some of the imagery and some of whatever messaging is gonna come through with that. And I actually think I think it's kind of nice to leave it more open and go by the artists. I know that that's putting in personal views of what you find pleasing, but if we have enough people selecting and
Yeah,
deciding.
I would agree. My thought would be to like reach out to, I don't know, like 10, 15 artists that we think are awesome and ask for sort of do it like a competition where we award the top 3 finalists with $500 to develop their idea. There's like I don't know if it would be exactly like that, but there's a level where in the public art world, you don't want to be asking artists to develop a concept for you for free at all. They would be writing this. They're not doing the work of drawing something for you without getting paid at all. You would kind of commission like you would if you're hiring someone, you would commission a sketch of something that you're interested in, and the 3 finalists would be invited to be paid to do that or something. So, I mean, we could reach out to a smaller number of artists we really think are great and invite them and see if that works, or we could reach it a little broader. Go ahead, Sharon, what do you think?
I actually might go the other way. I mean, I think we're a limited group. I'd love to see what we come up with if we put out an open call. So much like our electrical boxes, I put together an RFP of what we're looking for, what our priorities are, and get descriptions. I don't think we can do the same thing we did with electrical boxes and ask them to put it in there. But if we ask people to submit an application with a portfolio or at least a pointer to their website, if they're professional artists, we can get a sense of how accomplished they are. And we can have some sense of whether they can execute whatever project they might describe. I'm not sure I want to pay people to create possible designs, because I'm not sure how that I agree we don't want to make people do work, make artists work without paying them, but I don't know that we also want to pay them if they're for putting together a sketch or a prototype or whatever you're thinking about.
I think with the funds that we have, I mean, it's not a humongous amount of money. So I agree with Sharon on paying people to do this sketch. Seems like, I mean, in an ideal world, yes, but it's a mural. I think we could just,
Well, I think that would
do it
only,
from looking at what they already do.
yeah,
And
I
then,
think,
and then their design would have to be approved, obviously.
yeah, I didn't mean that we would pay them to submit their first round. It would be, we invite people to submit. They would, and we would select, if there wasn't a clear winner, it would probably, we would select the top 3 to, if we didn't understand what it really looked like, we would select the top 3 to then come on to this next round to build something for us. Because I feel like I don't know how to write an RFP, and I don't know if anybody else does, on how to submit something that's meaningful to our community through words. I don't know. I don't know why anybody would do that for the amount of money we're offering them, to be honest. Because there's not a lot of muralists, professional muralists out there of the caliber we're talking about in terms of. But I mean,
going to be involved in this at all, or we're just hiring an artist to paint something, or are folks in the community being asked to contribute in any way?
Well, this is what this discussion is about. The community, individuals from the community, I think, would be included in the selection committee. They would be included in like whatever event we had to put it in, but and however the artist wanted to use community input, or however we told the artist to use community input when in designing the actual, after we've hired them to design the actual mural. But one thing that I have concerns about is opening a general call to the community and then having to have suggestions from many different community members about what this mural should look like and what it should be. I mean, if we were going to do a community-based mural, I would recommend we select a partner like Nuari or like another community partner in Needham, like NDI or Dennis's group that he works with, the Chinese Friends of Needham, and work with them and hire an artist to develop something, to paint something, kind of like what they did with the rail trail mural. I would recommend hiring a professional artist who gets community input, but not have them paint the mural. And I think each location would be different, because if we ended up doing the Trader Joe's location, that would need a serious amount of community input, because that space site specifically has a lot of healing, because that's where the racial event that happened last year at CVS was a big thing. And I think that location would need to be addressed. If a mural by a random artist just showed up without community input in that location, I think the town would have a real issue with that. So I think that part of the call has to have
Well, no question.
input.
I might form a, once we got some proposals in, would form a community,
Yes.
bigger group to take a look at the proposals. We could do an open forum. I mean, I think there's any number.
You mean a selection with the selection committee, after we looked at it, have the artists run a forum?
No, we
of
run the
community
forum.
input.
I think we get some proposals in, we narrow it down, because we're the town body that does that. And then we invite community input into the last 5 proposals that we get. And then go from there. I think we could also, I think if we get it down to 3, we might interview. I mean, I think we can do some legwork here. We can ask the artist to come and talk with us at our open meeting and answer questions, because we have questions. So because the funding came to.
So when you talk about
social
community
justice.
input, you're talking about input on what the artist has suggested, not that the community actually designed the mural themselves.
No, but well, both. I mean, is there going to be any piece of the community be involved in creating it? I mean, is that part of the artist's vision? That's a question. Are community members going to be invited to paint it, to be involved in what way? How are they involved in the community?
And yeah, and these are all the questions we're discussing and that we need to talk about and decide. I would just definitely say, in the public art world, when you're hiring an artist who can handle this, it is a much higher level of artist that can handle a community. And so that will cost a lot more and be a longer process, and has to have a way more clear vetting process for choosing the artist. And that's something
I
that
don't
we
know
can do.
about, I think it could be like I mean, I haven't been involved in a community mural project, but I think it could start to get a lot of opinions coming from 10 million directions if you open up suggestions from the public on how the artist should alter their design or what they should put into it. And then it will just sort of I mean, just from an artist's point of view, that would just kind of suck all the joy out of it for me personally. I think I'd be like, oh God, please no. But I just But I think allowing the community to have, or certain members of the community have some input or say as to which design they prefer is a great idea. But I think if you start having everybody, yeah, I think it would really,
Well, if I'm hearing what you're saying,
really dilute the design too, I think.
The great part is that we have 2 murals to do too. So
We don't
one
have a
could be
location
one
for the
thing
second
and
one,
one could be
so.
something. What?
We don't have a location for the second one. So,
Well,
and thank you.
How
by
about the
way,
rail
Amy,
trail?
for all
There's
the work.
lots of extra space on that rail
Uh-huh.
trail.
well, I think if I'm not incorrect, Heather was saying that we should be first focusing on our theme, what we would like. We can get input from the public about that. But after that, we proceed with selecting what would be the appropriate artist ourselves. Am I right?
That's not what I heard, but you answer, Heather.
No? Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. I just think that opening it up to the public we won't have this done for 5 years. And there will be a lot of rancor and a lot of, on
I
one,
was saying
but-
to open it up to the public, perhaps just when there's several design options, but not to do the design, not to get an opinion about what the design should be. You're going to get like 5 million opinions on that, and then it'll fizzle out. I think
We
if that
could-
happens.
We could, once
Yeah.
the designs are narrowed down to 2 or 3, put them on the website or put them in the newspaper and say, which one do you like best? Vote on these.
That would be a great,
open it-
that would be a great thing to do, especially because then the select board would have to approve whatever
Yeah.
the design is too. So if we have like the community's buy-in on some of the designs,
Yeah.
that would be good as well.
That's
But
what I was.
the thing about opening it to a lot of artists is difficult. I was actually speaking to somebody whose town did this in Sarasota, Florida. And somebody in her building was on the committee, and they opened it up, and they got artists from all over the world, literally all over the world. We'll fly in, we'll do this. And they finally couldn't look at over 300 proposals. They didn't have the people to do it, and they went to a local artist, and they said, can you do this? And they did it. And that's how it became a lesson in frustration. I think if we narrow it down and choose 10 or 15 and say, we are requesting a proposal from you, if we get 10 or 15, that's a lot to look at. That's a lot to evaluate and to deal with. And we also know that they're serious about doing this. And that we vetted them to some degree already. The ones that I put up, that I've suggested already, this is all they do. This is their thing. They're well known in the areas. They've done Children's Hospital or Mass General or Newton Wellesley or whatever they've done. They're all over the place. And then there's one who I put up. I put it up today, but I found the website a couple of months ago. And I watched his videos today, and it just blew me away. The whole thing blew me away about what he does, his process, how he deals with the public. And he's willing to go, he's based all over the country, but he's got an office in New York, and he's willing to go as far as Nova Scotia, I think he said, and come in and talk to the community and give a free proposal and estimate. And his stuff is amazing. So my fear is if you put out something like that, you're going to get, I could probably do a mural, and I could use $10,000. I'm going to put something together. From a lot of,
I would
a lot of
totally agree,
people.
Joni. I think I recommend that the Public Art Committee focus on finding 10 to a dozen artists
Right.
to ask,
20. I mean,
or
Just a-
however
just-
many we can find,
right.
and then design a call where we're saying this is what, this is our space, this is our budget, this,
This
and
is our
I-
theme.
and this is, our theme, which I feel like we should keep general and have the artists sort of focus in on what they're the most interested in doing instead of picking
Right.
like,
So
something
the
very
letter that I
specific.
wrote and that I sent to you
yeah,
had that whole, these are the things in some way we want included, that whole list of ideas that came from
yeah,
the diversity committee, whatever, and
Yeah,
I
it's
agree,
pretty
and I think
general, yeah.
the interpretation has to come from the artist.
right.
And then we look at the art piece and say, that doesn't do it, or that is amazing, and that's exactly what we were going for.
I love that. And then we would put a couple of the options into the newspaper that the selection committee has looked at, and we can invite public comment that
Right.
way. And then I guess the budget would be a lot of the $20,000. Does anybody have a feeling about that part, the budget at all?
Isn't
Or-
the
The money
20 for
goes to
two
the-
murals?
The 20,000 is for 2 murals. It's interesting because the DeFazio town mural, they don't think will cost a lot. So if the second mural is smaller, we can always fundraise for it. I guess it just matters how much the town is willing and comfortable for us to take it on the first try, or whether we just start fundraising for this mural right now.
And
Well,
I don't
My thoughts on,
think we can fundraise yet.
that's what I was thinking. I think that we have to have something definite to go to people that we're asking, for funds from,
Mhm.
so that they know what they'd be getting. Oh, we're gonna do a mural. Oh, what's the mural about? Well, we don't know, but please give us $5,000.
Yeah.
No, we have to be a little bit more defined with them. It's a little bit more respectful. Although people are happy to say yes. Like I said, the banks compete with saying yes on this stuff, so I'm happy to go for it.
Okay.
And Amy, I'm really enthusiastic about the Trader Joe's wall. And I think it would be a big boon to the people in the Heights who are dealing with issues of construction and potential construction and feeling kind of down in the dumps about living in the Heights. And I think that it would really be a very positive thing. So I'm very willing, after this Sunday, because I'm tied up until then, to help you in any way possible, writing letters, making phone calls to get to the right people and try to get a fire lit under them.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm also happy to help out in any way too. So let me know.
Does anybody else have any other comments before I review what I think we've kind of come to discussion about? Which I'm sure we'll need. Corinne or Julia, do you have anything else to add? Okay, so I'm hearing we write a call that's kind of a general theme. We focus on finding a dozen or more really great artists in an artist list. We'll do like a general call to them, having them write out what they would be interested in writing on, but making sure that they're also the kind of artists that could work with community input on design if necessary. When we finally get to 3, like if we have a selection committee that has community members on it and youth, and we select some finalists, or unless one is amazing and everything else sucks, we would have those 3 or so finalists be in the newspaper for public input, and also talk to the select board about approval of those. We won't bring in any partners in on this process at this time. And where the location is still kind of up in the air. The funding would probably be half of our budget to 3/4 of the budget, somewhere around there. And if we finally get some clearer understanding, we would, of what this is, maybe a later step, we'll fundraise more for it. Am I missing anything? Does that make sense? And then I'll, okay. So the Public Art Committee will meet and we'll start working on this actual stuff.
Good.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, the only other update we can, so anyways, we'll go to the Public Art Committee and we'll come back for more voting and more discussion once that some of this is written out better. That makes sense. Okay, the other thing, I could feel like I can do this in 3 minutes. Advocacy, there's two things from going on in the advocacy world right now that I wrote down. Tomorrow morning, there is a Congressional Committee on Small Business meeting. It's a remote hearing to talk about the power, peril, and promise of the creative economy. So they're taking public input basically about how the creative economy is important to the nation's recovery during the pandemic. The other thing that partners with that is Mass Cultural Council on January 24th. If you haven't gotten an email, they're seeking input on how to spend the $60 million for artist recovery funds that they're getting. So you can either do an individual input or attend the meeting. And so those are the two big advocacies for getting funding for the arts in Massachusetts right now. And then the last thing is there any, does anybody have any other business they wanted to add? Sharon, what's this Connecting Communities event at Olin College? Are you involved in that? Because we keep the Needham email, our cultural council email keeps getting invited to that. Is that your event?
Yes, because the cultural council, yes, because Olin applied for Olin received a grant from the cultural council years ago. Yes, please come join us.
The 27th, I think.
Yes, I know this. Yes, the 27th.
Yeah.
Register. I will forward to everyone but you, Charlie, because then it won't be an official communication. We hear about what's going on at Olin. Meet our new president and hear about partnerships as a theme, right? They just finalized it this afternoon, so I just got the I found out when you did.
That's awesome.
So wait, hold on here. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, totally.
So here we go.
Because the only other thing we had was the municipal funding update, and Amy let me know that there's no other update with that. We don't quite know when that funding request will go before the select board, so there's no answer. So yeah,
I do have a little bit more information on that.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, Sharon, show us this and then maybe.
Oh, I did. Didn't I?
Okay.
Did you see?
Yeah, I saw it.
There it is. Okay. There's there come 7 o'clock on Zoom, our new president. If you have not met her, Gilda Barabino will be there. And my boss, the Dean of External Programs and Partnerships, and some state reps, and we'll talk about partnerships and some cool stuff that's going on. So on Facebook, and if you would like to receive this invitation, please email me directly. Maybe I won't spam you all. So let me know. Thank you.
Oh, Amy, you have an update. Go for it.
Yes, I just want to let you know that the Finance Committee has begun the very lengthy process of going through the various town department budgets, and the request for the $25,000 over 3 years, which is a warrant article at town meeting, is under the umbrella of the Office of Town Manager. So it looks as though it'll be late February, early March when that will be reviewed by the Finance Committee. So once I get a better idea of exact timing, I will certainly let you know, but having a representative from the NCAC advocating for this funding would certainly go a long way.
And is that at the finance committee level first? And then, so do we have to advocate to them, or do we wait till after that, the select board, or?
So how it works is the finance committee reviews all of the warrant articles that go before a town meeting, and separately also reviews the town budget, painstakingly reviews every line item of the town budget. But because this is a warrant article, they're reviewing this separate from the town budget. And so the finance committee would then vote to recommend it for passage at town meeting or not. So depending on how that goes, and I'm very optimistic that this will receive widespread support, then it would be time to, I think, have you folks reach out to town meeting members and ask for their support and voting in favor of it at town meeting.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for that update. That's really big news. I will remain optimistic as well.
Yeah.
So we'll have a public art meeting. If anybody else who's not on the committee wants to join, feel free. I'll probably just send it to everybody so you can see it. And then we'll see you on March 8th. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Are we supposed to adjourn?
Adjourned.
Thank you.
Officially adjourned. See ya.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Stay healthy.